Okay, this is going to be part 3 of the pre-calc review. We're going to talk about the unit circle. That's the next part. All right, so you got to remember your triangles, your 30 pi over 6, your pi over 4, your pi over 3. Okay, all right, your 0, 360, 90, 180, 270. Okay, these are the axis points. Those are the radians. Those are the what is positive. Okay, so when you go to this, what you have to do is you have to find the reference angle. So this would be the pi over 4, 1, and that's going to be in quad 2. Okay, so the pi over 4, 1. All right, sine function is O over H. So the O amount is square root of 2. The opposite is 2. Since it's in quadrant 2, that remains positive. 5 pi over 3, that's going to be pi over 3, and that would be in quad 4. Okay, all right, tangent is O over A. In the pi over 3 triangle, which is the 60-degree triangle, the opposite would be square root of 3. The adjacent would be 1. And since it's in quad 4, only cosine and secant are positive. Okay. All right. This is the pi over 6 triangle, which is the 30-degree triangle. All right. That is H over A. All right. The H amount is 2. The A amount would be square root of 3. Okay. All right, so what we got there is that's going to turn into 2 square root of 3 over 3. All right, and since it's in, this would be in quadrant 4, that's going to remain positive. All right, cosine, that's pi over 4, that's going to be in quadrant 1. Okay, cosine is A over H, that's square root of 2 over 2, and since it's in quadrant 1, it's positive. Okay, all right, let's do these over here just so when I scroll down, I don't miss those. All right, here I would have to compare to 180 degrees. The difference there would be 60, and that is in quad 3, okay? So in the 60-degree triangle, you got A over H, so that's gonna be 1 over 2, okay? All right, and since it's in quad 3, only tangent and cotangent would be positive. Okay, cosecant, that's in quadrant 2, pi over 6, which is the 30-degree triangle, okay? That's H over O, okay? All right, so I got 2 over 1, which would be 2, and since quadrant 2, that's going to be positive, I will leave that there. Okay, this would be quadrant 1. 30-degree triangle would be the reference angle. Okay, so that is going to be 1 over 2, and since it's in quadrant 1, it would remain positive. 150 degrees, that's going to be here. I'm still going to compare to 180, so that's going to be a reference angle of 30 in quadrant 2. Okay. Cotangent is A over O. In the 30-degree triangle, the A amount is square root of 3, the O amount is 1, and that's going to be negative because that's what's going to be in quadrant 2. Okay, scrolling down. Okay, 5 pi over 3. This is in quadrant number 4. Okay, that's the pi over 3 triangle, the 60-degree triangle. Okay, so that's O over H. That's going to be square root of 3 over 2. Since it's in quadrant 4, that's going to be negative. Okay, secant of 3/4, that's going to be pi over 4. Okay, that's going to be in quadrant 2. Okay, secant is H over A. So that's going to be 2 over the square root of 2. Okay, which is just going to turn into square root of 2. The only things that are going to be positive are sine and cosecant, so that's going to be negative. Okay, this is an axis point. So at pi over 2, my axis point is just 0. You just look on for that. 120 would be here. I'd compare to 180. So that's a 60-degree triangle. Tangent is O over A. The opposite amount of the 60-degree triangle is 3. That's going to be 1. That's in quadrant 2, so that's going to be negative. Okay, all right. This goes in more than twice. So what I have to do is I got to subtract by 2 pi. If I get a common denominator, that's going to be 6 pi over 3. Okay, all right, which that would be 8 minus that would be 8. Okay, all right, that's still too big, so I'd have to subtract again. So that gives me 2/3 pi, which that's in quadrant 2, with pi over 3 being that amount. Okay, so that's the 60-degree triangle, or the pi over 3 triangle. We got H over O, so it's 2 over the square root of 3, which we know will be 2 square root of 3 over 3, and since it's in quadrant 2, that would remain positive. This goes in more than that, so I have to subtract 2 pi. So that's going to be over 6, so I'm going to subtract by 12 pi over 6. So that's going to be 7 pi over 6. Okay, so that's like the 30-degree triangle. And that's going to be in quad 3. Okay, the O amount in the 30-degree triangle is 1, the hypotenuse is 2. Since it's in quadrant 3, tan and cotangent are the only thing that are going to be positive. Okay, this one I would have to add 2 pi. So if I get a common denominator, that would be 4 pi over 2. So first I add that, that'd be negative 3 pi over 2. And add 4 pi over 2 again, that'd be 1 pi over 2. Okay, so that's an axis point. Now, secant is not on the axis, so I'd have to convert that to 1 over cosine. And then at pi over 2, that's 0, so 1 over 0, that'd be undefined. Okay, this one's also, this goes in more than that, so I have to subtract by 2 pi. Okay, so that would be 6 pi over 3. Minus that would be 2 pi over 3. Okay, so that's going to be in quadrant 2. Okay, that's going to be h over o. Okay, so 2/3 h over o. The h amount is 2. The o amount in the 60-degree triangle is square root of 3. So that's going to be 2 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, and since it's in quadrant 2, it remained positive. Okay, last two. This one I'd have to add 2 pi. So I'm going to add 12 pi over 6. So that's going to give me 11 pi over 6. So that's in quadrant 4. Tangent's O over A, so it's the 30-degree triangle. The O amount would be 1. The A amount would be square root of 3. That's going to turn into square root of 3 over 3. And since it's in quad 4, the only thing that's going to be positive is cosine and secant. Okay, then here I'm going to add 360. That's 210. Okay, that's down in here. I would compare that to 180. So my reference angle is going to be 30. So I'm in quad 4. I'm sorry, quad 3. Okay. My reference angle is 30. Cotangent is A over O. In the 30-degree triangle, the A amount is square root of 3. The O amount is 1. That's going to be square root of 3. Since I'm in quadrant 3, that's going to be, oops, that's not going to be negative. Sorry. That's going to be positive. Okay. All right. All right. So we got some trig functions here, solving some of the trig functions. So what I'd want to do, okay, if I'm going to sub out, let's say A for cosine. So that's 3A equals 2A plus 1. Subtract 2A. That's A equals 1. Okay. All right, bring back cosine. Cosine of A equals 1. All right, so where is that the case? That's probably going to be on the axis point because cosine's A over H. No triangle would make that. So where is that going to be 1? That's going to be 1 at 0. Okay, or if you put 2 pi, that's fine as well. Okay, all right. Let me do some of the other ones. That one's a little trickier. Okay, this one, if I notice, I can take out sine there. So I got cosine x plus 1 equals 0. I can solve these individually. I don't need to replace a letter. Okay, so I got cosine x equaling negative 1. Sine equaling 0. That's got to be an axis point. If you check all your axis points, what you see is that's going to be a 0 and that's going to be a pi. Okay, where is cosine negative 1? Well, that's A over H. None of your triangles make that, but your axis point did at pi. So, all right, I don't have to repeat it. So it's 0 and pi. Okay, this one, what I'd do is I would take out secant for A. So that's A squared minus A plus 10 equals 12. Bring that back over. So that's A squared minus A minus 2 equals 0. A minus 2, A plus 1 would be the factoring. I solve each of those. That'd be A equals 2. That'd be A equals negative 1. Bring back secant. Secant of x equals 2. Secant of x equaling negative 1. Okay? So if you look at your triangles, the A over H, all right, what triangle, if you go back and look at it, I'm sorry, not A over H over A would give you 2. And if you go back and look, okay, all right, H over A, boom, would give me 2. So that's going to be the pi over 3 triangle, okay? Okay, that'll give me the pi over 3. And since that's positive, all right, where else is secant positive? It's in quadrant 4. So quad 1, quad 4. Okay, where is secant -1? Well, none of the triangles give that, but pi does. Okay. Let's see, do I have that? No, go right to the graphs. Okay. All right. This one, okay, what I would have to do is take out, because they're not the same, I have this, that cosine squared equals this, the same thing, sine squared equals that from our identities. So I got 2 parentheses 1 minus sine squared minus 2 sine of x minus 3 equals 0. If I distribute that, that's 2 minus 2 sine squared minus 2 sine of x minus 3 equals 0. Okay? So what I want to do is bring everything back to the other side. So what I got is 2 sine squared plus 2 sine of x. Okay? If I combine these, that would be minus 1. Okay? Don't think that that's supposed to be right. It's not. I don't think this should be like a 1 here. Okay? All right, because you can't factor this. Okay, you could factor that, because it'd be 2 sine of x minus 1 sine of x plus 1. Yeah, that would be right. Okay, so I got sine of x equals, if I solve this, it'd be 1/2 sine of x equals -1. That would be an axis point, that'd be 3 pi over 2. This one would be O over H, okay? All right, so that's going to be the pi over 3 triangle, and the other spot where sine is positive would be 2 pi over 3. So yeah, you gotta make that change to a 1 here, because that wouldn't work. All right, so let's make that a 1. All right, okay. Okay. All right, and then I'll make a part 3 video that includes the graphing and the equations.